Version 1.6 is finally here, and along with it are more events, more areas to explore, brand new enemies, weapons, and characters. However, not much has been said about the new buff to Elemental Mastery. Based on a recent developer discussion, Overload, Superconduct, Electro-charged, Shatter, and Swirl damage will be increased by a significant %. While it's nice to hear that we're getting buffs, but do we really understand how Elemental Mastery adds to your character's damage? For EM to work, a reaction has to happen. You'll need an Element Aura Applicator and an Element Trigger character. The higher the trigger character's elemental mastery, the stronger the elemental reactions the character can achieve. In this example, level 60 Barbara has 0 elemental mastery. She will be our trigger character. Lisa, on the other hand, only has her elemental mastery ascension stat. She will be our aura character. We'll first show how EM boosts Barbara's electro-charged damage before the buff. For the first demo, in the pre-1.6 state, Barbara's electro-charged damage at 0 EM is 529, but after Sucrose gives her an additional 50 EM, thanks to her first passive, damage goes up to 651. We'll take off all their artifacts to show that these reactions depend only on the amount of elemental mastery and level of your character. No need for crit rate, no need for crit damage, or even elemental damage to produce the same results. As for the second demo with the 1.6 buffs in place, Barbara's electro damage at 0 EM is 532. But after Sucrose gives her an additional 50 EM, this damage goes up to 740. We can see that even at the base of 0 EM, reaction damage has been buffed, and this only goes higher as you level your character further and increase the amount of elemental mastery that your trigger character has. This means that even without the best artifacts, your characters can still deal significant damage as long as you utilize the reactions that your team comps can create. Just to stress how important this buff is, before this update, amplifying reactions such as Melt and Vaporize dominated most team compositions that aim for really high damage. This is due to how damage output is calculated in Genshin Impact. Amplifying reactions multiplies with other stats such as crit, while transformative reactions only adds and has its own calculations based on your character level and elemental mastery. Of course, there are other factors, but these don't matter to transformative reactions. There are other transformative reactions such as Overload, Superconduct, Shatter, Swirl, and each of them work differently. Overload scales the highest but has the least practical use due to its tendency to scatter enemies away from you and away from each other, making AoE attacks less viable. Electro-charged is unique since it triggers multiple times and can be triggered alongside other reactions without losing its status. This means that you can have overload, melt, vaporize, swirl while in the electro-charged state. Its scaling isn't as high as overload, but it is easier to spread and has no downsides. Shatter as a byproduct of freeze, so reuse of a claymore type attack gives more damage, but we'll have to see how it can be useful versus its perma-freeze counterpart. Swirl reaction, which is specifically used with the full Viridescent Venereer set effect, is now more potent. Despite having a really low multiplier, it does reduce resistances of the elements it absorbs, making a Nemo DPS built with EM and multiple reaction supports more viable than they used to be. Superconduct acts similarly with Swirl, but only for physical resistances. In general, this 1.6 update makes reactions more relevant whether you're building just a character or an entire team. In the next part of this video, we'll have a demo of a main DPS Sucrose with Electro and Hydro support versus the Spiral Abyss Floor 12. On this pre-buff video with Electro Fischl support, Sucrose is built with attack and crit in mind. Team damage is relying on her ability to swirl, lower enemy resistances, and spread support since shows and support Fischl's electro-charged damage. Sucrose is also boosting her team's EM, but not a whole lot. In this second Abyss run with Electro Beta as support, Sucrose is not only swirling to lower the enemy resistances, but also to pass on EM and spread consistent electro-charge damage. If you observe Sucrose closely in this buff version of the Abyss run, her swirl reactions does more damage than her normal attacks. Previously, that wasn't the case. Small tip from Gambit: when swirling with Sucrose Burst, you need to have her on the field so you get the 50 EM plus the 20% total EM for your entire team. This team composition really benefits from this Sucrose EM transfer mechanic since it increases the entire team's damage, not just your EM-based character's damage. There is still so much to cover about elemental mastery and transformative reactions, but we'll have to end it here for now. If you do want to learn more, let us know. Kindly drop us a like if this helped you, and maybe subscribe to our channel if you're feeling generous.